We do go down some interesting routes, don't we, Les?
We had a few. We've had a few over the years, and the fact that you went to the same school as my son Scott, Illinois State,
That's
your
right.
ISU guys, and you have that in common as well.
Amen.
Yes. There was. Always knew Scott Grobstein, even though I didn't know Scott Grobstein, because we both went to ISU, and that would have to that would have to be the base of the conversation. Now we can move on. We got through that part. Les told me what he knew. He linked something. He connected a dot just like he always had to do, and then he was able to focus. It was like his own little attention deficit disorder thing where he had to kind of play with things a little bit before he could go in a straight line. Let me get my more like per don't. Okay, you got through the joke. Ha ha. We've heard it now. Now go on, Les. No, stop the shtick. Would you please just tell me more like the ain'ts, the saints? Get it? Okay, Les. Now move on. That's our guy. He is the truly the one and only Les Grobstein, who died on Sunday afternoon at the age of 69. They have not released a reason as to why Les died, that we lost him. And we'll find out. What I have learned from the family is that Les wanted to work. He wanted to work the overnight yesterday, if that makes sense. He wanted to work what you would think of as a Sunday into the Monday. So he wanted to show up at midnight. And that's the day we lost him, later that afternoon. He wanted to work that day. Something was amiss. Something was wrong. Les there was a wellness check that was performed on him at one point in time, and we were all relieved that he was okay. So I thought, okay, all right, Les, something happened, and he's sick, so we got to deal with that, and he's going to take a couple days off, and then he's going to be fine. And that's the way it felt. I kind of, I was kind of thinking of it and through my peripheral, like what's going on. I'm just assuming Les will pop back up. And then I woke up to the news this morning, 7 o'clock. I woke up and I looked at my phone just like I do, and it's messages galore, actually, with the story of Les. I'm thinking, my God, everybody gets up very, very early in this world, but it's 7 o'clock, and I had a show to do that. I was filling in for Bernstein and Rahimi today with Rick Camp, so I was prepared to be up and to do a show, which obviously was going to be a completely different show, and then there I was, frozen, looking at that and thinking, yeah, this is wow, and trying to process it and not thinking it's real, but understanding that it's real, and not, I guess I shouldn't say that because like people were you shocked? I mean, I guess I was surprised. Yeah, I did not think I was going to wake up to that call, but to say I'm shocked, I'm not necessarily shocked about that. It wasn't, the biggest surprise party in the world. But it has taken me on a journey of emotions throughout this day. Am I going Will Ferrell for some reason? But that's what it was.
No.
That's what this day has been, man. Sean Sears joining us on the mic here right now too. It has been a day that has been like, because honestly, Sean, when we did the show this morning, Rick Camp and I, from 9 to noon, it was really fun. It was actually really fun, and I was smiling a lot, and it felt good, and it wasn't that tell a story and cry, because I've been through things like that too, where you're kind of just crying through your laughter or vice versa. In this case, it was just really fun to talk about, and then now it's the processing part and the hitting you part that this guy ain't coming back, and all this fun stuff you talk about. It's we'll have the memories, but he's gone.
Yeah, it's I think one thing I've noticed, and I've only been with the score since this past April, so I've never really interacted with Les in person. It's been through, the board, so I almost feel like somewhat like a caller to some extent with him. But he's a guy that everyone has a Les Grobstein story, and even the short time I spent with him, I can think of 5 or 6 stories I routinely tell some of my friends, just because, like, he's a one-of-a-kind person, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt the same way you did, though. Les is. I figured he was just sick. He was bouncing back. He texted me Sunday morning, said he was going to be here. So I thought for sure. And Les doesn't text. So
I know.
So I was like, okay, all right, Les is here. Let's go. And then another day I thought, and unfortunately that didn't come. But he's. It's clear, I can't tell you. Anytime we go off the air or someone, Les can't be on, we need to replace him for a night or something like that, the text screen floods with, how's Les doing?
Man.
Where is he at?
Yeah.
Are we listening to CBS all night? Where's Les?
Right.
It's clear how important he was to people.
Amen, man. Well, Sean, I'm glad that you're there because I get disorganized looking at all the callers. Am I at Ken right now? Would that be correct? Ken in Elk Grove?
That is right.
Look at me. Ken, you're on the score.
Robert, Scott, thank you for sharing your dad with all of us over the years. I wanted to ask Scott, how thick is his wallet compared to Les's wallet? Les had a George Costanza wallet.
Well, first of all, I just had to tell you, just so you know.
And when you say that to Les, George Costanza was a fictional character. I'm a real person. I said, Les, your pants are going to fall down with that wallet. You got more cow there than out in the fields.
Oh, my God.
But, Grote, while you're laughing,
Yeah.
the day the Bears traded for Khalil Mack, I called.
Okay.
And I go, yeah, I'm a neighbor of Les. And you're like, go over there and ring his doorbell. Go ring him his doorbell. I was looking back at it. I should have. I want Khalil Mack, if you play the tape back, to run over and just knock the living crap out of Aaron Rodgers next year and then point up to the sky for JD and Les and say, that's for you, because that's how much Les is going to push him. Les was one of a kind.
So you think there's going to be a Grobber game this year? There's going to be
yes. Just like a Brian Robinson a couple years ago.
Oh, my God.
It
would have to be. You're right. It has to be dramatic, and it has to. The only way I will truly believe in this, though, is if one of two scenarios. It has to be either a sweep of the Packers or some super consequential game against the Packers.
Mark, let us pray. Let us keep our fingers crossed.
Let us pray now. Are we in church now?
Yeah. Well, let us go get the lotto ticket too. I don't care. They can win 2 games a year as long as they beat those Green Bay. The mustard and green, the icky colors from the North Pole.
Right. Yes.
Mark, but the day that Bears got Khalil Mack, I was on, and you're like, go get him. Go get Les. Go get Les. I go, I'm a neighbor. I'm right around the corner from him.
Yeah. Why did you get him?
No. But every time I saw him, we made sure we talked football.
So you wanted to go over there to tell him about the trade or the acquisition of Mack. You want to be like, yo.
I'm ready. I was ready, rip run, ready to go that day to let's go Bears. And now
that was
let us moment of silence.
A moment of silence indeed. Let us pray in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Thank you so much, man.
By 3. Go Bears.
See you, Ken. That's Oh, awesome. Did that go on the air right there, Sean, or are you just talking to my ear? I don't know what's happening right now. But I
was
do
just
know.
in your ear, but I'll talk to you either way.
Oh, that's great. Okay, that was in my ear. And here's what was just put in my ear by the producer, is that we are being joined by another score producer, and he is Zach Withers, who I remember very well, a Grobber producer. He was also a Saturday Suckage producer. So you and I assured a lot of smiles through the glass through the years, and many of them you got to witness centering on our guy Les Grobstein. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, Mark. Yeah, and that's definitely for sure. Back up on the 12th floor, and that was back when the update producer was, had a clear view of the actual producer. So we would constantly be looking at each other when Les was just being the only Les that we know.
When he was being ridiculous, we would look at each other like, what do we do now?
And like just throughout the day, I've just had like so many crazy memories of Les, and it's hard to really just keep track of them all because I worked with him for almost 10 years doing overnights with that man. And
Oh my God.
the one thing that, it was a long time because, but the one thing that really like pops in my head that's like weird that people probably don't realize, he wasn't just someone that would always bring up statistics of just, the 64 Cubs or just random things like that. He had his like own stats. Like he had like just papers filled with bum of the week. Who was the bum of the week in 2006, week 14 of the NFL season?
Oh my God.
It was just really, really. He was a great guy and a strange guy.
Yeah, that sums it up. That is fair, and you ain't lying. Those are two good words to describe Les Grobstein for sure.
Yeah, because and you always like. I'm trying to just keep my thoughts in order here, but he was a fan of just like weird movie franchises, or not weird, but just like things that you wouldn't expect him as a man of his age, like whether it be like Home Alone, which we all know.
Yeah,
but he also.
Home Alone.
Yeah, it's a movie franchise that I grew up with, as a kid of the 80s. So in the 90s, I loved Home Alone, but it was like weird to me that, Les was super fond of the first two.
It's in your wheelhouse, not his. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was also that way with like Men in Black. He'd always talk and quote like different franchises like that. And that's kind of what he would remind me of, is like those quirky alien humans from Men in Black that they were trying to blend in among us, but they just couldn't, you could tell that something was off. And that's kind of like what Les was.
That's really good. Well, there's those movies, and then there's, of course, The Three Stooges, Beavis and Butthead. Like you know what? Like really, Zach, there's a wonderful and beautiful simplicity that went with Les. He didn't try to overcomplicate any of his sports talk. We know that, unless you consider obscure names overcomplicating the conversation, which maybe it did at times, but he would never overcomplicate anything. Well, nothing to do with advanced metrics or anything. Those were dirty words to him. And then his sense of humor, like we're talking about, it is like the Stooges. It's just basic, beautiful, wonderful, stupid humor, like Beavis and Butthead, same thing. And the Home Alone thing, I don't know if I can quite get a handle on that, other than just the silliness of that movie, the silly robbers, the silliness that a kid would be left home alone. Like that probably resonated with Les, just the pure silliness of the whole scenario.
Right. And he's, like you said, he's very, very just straightforward in all his approaches in life. Like, even just take, not to divert here, but even just taking the Jay Cutler thing that you brought up a couple times. I mean, the only reason he hated Jay Cutler is because he lost against the Packers. And I mean, it mattered more to him than anything else. Yeah. That's why he loved Kyle Orton, because Kyle Orton could, quote unquote, beat the Packers. And so, if it was simple. Very simple,
it's that easy. Yeah.
That's all that mattered to him, was just, I need the Bears to beat the Packers. So if the Bears beat the Packers this year, that they're going along with the previous caller, that would be your Brian Robinson's game. Les will will them to a win from the great beyond.
Yeah. It really is a 1 + 1 is 2 kind of thing with Les. 4 + 4 is 8. Just simple numbers, times tables, nothing like that. We're not talking about long division here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I mean, and like, you'll know this because I'm sure you've had all the same experiences with him. And you I think it was Ronji you touched on this with, but he didn't really get to know, what you're doing in your personal life with your family or anything. Like for him, when we would talk, he'd be like, "Oh, you're from Northwest Indiana, so I went and covered a game in this obscure high school."
Right.
That's the history that he wanted to know about you.
Yes. That you're right. And then you would always have that at its base, and that was how conversations always had to start. And we're talking to Zach Withers, one of Grobber's many producers, and Zach Withers, a longtime score guy as well. Zach, anything else that you want to share before we let you go into the night?
No, that was just it. Just the random thinking about Les. Just the fact that he, circling, this is a very Grobstein call because we jumped over a couple times, but just the fact that I just had the thought of he tracked everything from Bum of the Week to his NFL picks, and there's this probably a stack of paper somewhere like the Book of Suckage that just,
Yeah,
I don't know who's going to inherit that, but it's out there that Les has all these personal stats that he tracked his whole life that I'm sure he knew until the day he passed away.
That's unbelievable. And I love, Zach Withers, that you and I did what we did. You're right. We just went down a Grobber wormhole, and we never really came back to the topic until you imposed your will. Nice job, kid. Thanks for coming on, Zach. It's great to hear your voice, man.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Talk to you later.
Yep, absolutely. That's Zach Withers. And we're going to get to more of your calls here coming up. I've got a couple of things, too, on a couple of screenshots that I took of short stories about Les, one in particular from Fred Mitchell, longtime Tribune guy that just had me LOLing. It's deluxe. But more of your calls are coming. I know some of you guys have been hanging in there on hold. I'm going to get to you next. It's Mark Grote at Chicago Sports Radio 670, The Score.
This is Sports.
Mark, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Les. What is all of this Arlington Heights Bears stuff? It sounds like you're printing up AH hats already.
People keep coming up with what are they going to call them? And the answer is they're going to be the Chicago Bears. Period. Let me again repeat. You have two teams in New Jersey. Do they call themselves the Meadowlands Giants and Jets or the New Jersey Giants? No, they're the New York Giants.
But what if that's one of the
Jets.
parts of the deal? What if Arlington Heights says the only way you can come here is if we put that AH on the hat?
Mark, the NFL will never allow that to happen.
Oh, you don't think
it's
the NFL
all a
would
marketing thing? Do you think that they're going? What's on the side of the Bears helmets?
Well, there's a C right now, but I'm just saying maybe
they're not going to be called the Arlington Heights Bears. People have to understand that. Anybody who thinks otherwise. Now, you sometimes like to come on here and just kind of make waves, whatever. I get what you're doing. Don't buy into it, Mark.
Don't buy in, Mark.
The education of Mark Grote has come to a halt, very sadly, as we lost a classic, a friend, a colleague, a super talent in Les Grobstein on Sunday afternoon. So I am here presiding over Score Overnight, honored to be here and honored to be taking your calls at 312-644-6767. And I'm thinking about that clip that was just played. When Les goes with the I repeat, that may as well be a I'm warning you. Like when Les goes to the repeat, where he has gone to the repeat, you know he's starting to get you up against the canvas, up against the ropes, I should say. I repeat. Oh, no, here comes the repeat. This is going to be trouble. So, yeah, I should have known that Les was looking for the trouncing of me when I had the gall to suggest that AH could end up on the Bears' helmets. Oh, my God. All right, let's get to your calls. 312-644-6767. We begin with John in Des Plaines. Hi, John. You're on The Score.
Hey, Mark. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this. And there's only – Les can't be replaced, but if there is one person that can do this, I think it's you. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, John.
About 7 years ago, I got diagnosed with a brain tumor, and it changed my life a lot. I was 24 at the time and could not sleep at night. And my friend said, hey, why don't you turn on Les? I've been listening to him forever. He's great, encyclopedia, respectful, just, fun, bum of the week. And for that, you suck. So I just wanted to say thank you to him and his family. My condolences. And I just want to thank him for being who he was, getting me through a ton of nights where I just couldn't sleep. I think you should do overnights because I think that's what Les would have wanted. And I'm just very grateful to have him in my life. Thank you, Les. I love you.
John, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate that. Great words, and thanks for waiting as well. That was really good stuff. And look, I talked about it earlier. We talked about radio being as intimate as it is, and when radio is done right, in a lot of cases, it is something that you can depend on every day to have the same rhythm and feel and comfort to it. I don't want to say radio is a comfort food because I like to think of radio as a little bit more stimulating than food maybe, but there is a comfort to coming to something every day that you know that you can expect to be one way, and nobody at our radio station is better at being the same place every day for the listeners. We all come close to it, but Les Grobstein has taken it to another level. Let's go to another John. This one in Platteville, Wisconsin. Hi, John. You're on the score.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate it. Mark, I've been a fan of yours for many years.
Thank you.
One thing I want to say about Les is I got a chance to broadcast a high school sporting event tonight just south of Platteville in Cuba City. And my former boss and I were talking about Les. He works as a sports director and news director and says, I'd listen to him between 4 and 5 a.m. I would be the drunk guy calling up at night, okay, after a game. Hey, let's call it as it is, right? I mean, that's how it is.
All right, yeah.
And, he's the morning guy. I'm the night guy. But, he meant on the outside looking in. And the outside is, living outside of Platteville where the Bears were at for summer camp. Sure. I broadcast in that same booth.
Oh, nice.
And what's so nice about that is how the Bears are still entwined with Platteville. And that's where on the outside looking in where you have somebody, Mark Evenstead, that's my mentor, that is in his 60s, that still listens to Les all the time. Again, I'd be the drunk guy calling up at night and argue with him. One night it was, who's America's team? Okay, well, everybody does it. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody talks about the Dallas Cowboys. Other people talk about Green Bay Packers. And this is before the Cubs won the World Series. I said, the Chicago Cubs are America's team. This is 2012. And this is when the Cubs were losing, 100 games a year?
Oh, my God. So you said that. How does Grobber react to that? I imagine it wasn't pretty.
No, actually, he reacted and said, you're right. Look at the attendance. We suck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Wrigley Field is still packed. You're right. We're America's team because we represent America. We suck, but we still show up.
Okay.
Well,
all right.
Next thing you know, he asked me for my address. He sends me a score pack of a keychain and all that stuff. I'm like, why am I getting this? And I was like, what did I do to get on this guy's radar?
Oh, my God.
And then you get... Yeah, and it was like it's something being a broadcaster myself that it made me aspire to be kind of like a Grobber where it was be like the WWE. It's the same person, but turn yourself up to 150% on the radio.
Yeah.
You are the same person, but why not just amplify that personality? Have fun. For Christ's sake, he is basically the bartender at bar time.
Yep, he is. He's got to be. He's got to be ready to take anything. There's going to be some dirty language. You're going to see people going home with each other. That shouldn't be happening. You're right. That's a great analogy. Grobber, the bartender, who hears it all and has to clean everything up. And every once in a while, John, he's got to yell at you.
Oh, he does, because it's like instead of saying the guy at bar time saying, you know what, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's like, please stay and listen, but I sure don't want to hear your crap anymore.
John,
that's kind of what it was. But one question I do have for you, though, Mark, I know you have so many calls to get to.
Yeah.
How did Grobber get the shortcuts is what I want to know. This guy could figure out his way around Chicago and it would take a half an hour by GPS, but he'd get there in 20 minutes. How did he do that?
I have no idea. It's a great question. Look, Les loved to beat the system in any facet of his life. Like the example of the airline miles. It's not really beating the system because he earned those miles, but he's the guy that, when he gets a Subway sandwich, he punches the hole. You know what I mean? He's going to get that damn free sandwich if he has to go to Subway every day just to be able to say he's getting that free sandwich after all the holes have been punched in. So, and that's the way Les is with the flight miles. He's, he could have flown anywhere at any time because of the billions of flight miles that he's had. He is a preferred customer. Who knows how he went about it, but he was determined, and nobody was going to stop him from getting those things and hacking systems in an innocent way. And let me be very clear. It was all innocent, but it was definitely premeditated, and it was thorough. And Les could sort of break into life better than other people because he had the time to do it, and he took the time to do it. Let's go to Christian in Westmont. Hi, Christian. You're on the score. Christian?
Mark, you there?
I am here, Christian. What is happening?
Okay. Well, like everyone else who's shared their grobber stories, I was stunned to find out the news yesterday morning, and I actually interned for Grobber in 2010, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had professionally, I guess. Like running through the halls for during certain periods of the night, or if I never had the break in between, but I remember almost to the point of harassment where I was stalking him, making sure that, hey, what do you need? We're like an hour or so before the show. Like, what do you need? Oh, no, I'm fine. And then 10 minutes before, hey, let's go do this really quickly. Like, son of a, and all these. I'm like, okay, we're putting it together, and as soon as the update's done, we're going right into the opening, and all of a sudden, we're getting that uploaded into the system, and at the 11th hour, and it's working, and it was just so exciting and fun, and he let me talk too, just as a weird intern who had thoughts and opinions, but he let me talk and actually held conversations with me and allowed me to share my opinions, and it was good fun. And now that I'm 41 years old, Les has been in my life, since the day I was born, because I had young parents who listened to Steve Dahl, and I heard those stories about the Larry Lou Jack and the fights and all that fun stuff, and getting to hear the unedited version of the Elia tirade. It's just, I can't believe it. This it hasn't sunk in yet. And thank you for letting me share my story. Thank you for sharing yours. It was great to hear Ranji earlier. Even the clip with Adam Harris was just good fun. And we get to celebrate a life who made such an impact in all of ours. So thanks.
It's funny you brought up that Lady Gaga story or whatever. It's like Les could talk about Madonna or Lady Gaga or whoever, and it was just weird for me to even think of Les knowing who Lady Gaga is, and then also tell his favorite Michael Jordan story in just the matter of a couple minutes. That was just the Les Grobstein experience.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he just he found a way to get involved and reach out and just kind of relate to anyone in any way and anything possible, even if it was just hey, you're talking about this, but let you know I've been to the town you're from and they have a wonderful bakery there. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Area code 708. Les, are you or your producer Jordan going to see the new Star Wars movie? I'm planning to go see it. I hope so. Hey, I saw the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, and it wasn't even called A New Hope at that point. It was just called Star Wars. And then they came up with Return of the Jedi, etc., etc. But 1977 was when Star Wars first came out. We found out who R2-D2 and C-3CPO and found out who everybody was back then in 1977. The lines were incredible back then when they first came out with that movie. Unbelievable. We didn't see him until really the third one, which was Return of the Jedi. Jabba the Hutt first appeared in there. Then when they did the remakes, they had Jabba the Hutt kind of sketched in there and screened in there on the first movie, A New Hope. Ho, ho, ho. Jedi. Ha, ha.
Oh, Les. R2D2 was a fraud. C-3PO was the best person in the entire ship. We are continuing to celebrate the life of Les Grobstein. I'm Mark Grote on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. We lost our friend and colleague. He passed away on Sunday afternoon. Still waiting for exact answers on everything that happened to Grobstein, but he was 69 years old at the time, and we miss him, and we are talking about it here where he would normally be talking and Score overnight, which is airing from midnight to 5 for a long time now on the Score. And the guy who made it that way, the man who put this interesting man in overnights for a second go-around at the Score, is Mitch Rosen. Mitch Rosen is the program director of the Score, and he joins me now on the Score to talk about Les Grobstein. What's going on, Mitchie?
Good morning, Mark. First of all, thank you so much for doing what you do. I know you were a colleague of Les's, but I think you were a true friend. I think you guys really built a great bond over the years, and there was a true friendship. So I know how hard this is for you, reacting to his death, which is less than 24 hours to you and, to our listeners. So thank you so much for doing this tonight and what you did yesterday, and just incredible work by you.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure. As I said earlier, Mitch, if I had not been asked to do this, I would have been angry, and I would have I would have insisted on at least being part of anything that had to do with Les Grobstein. And there are plenty of people who know Les better, have been around him longer, but I just feel like I've had this sense of responsibility when it comes to Les just because of our history. But Mitch, what about your history with Les Grobstein? Because you and Les have probably crossed paths or been competitors in some regard on many occasions.
Yeah, I don't know about competitors. I think friends and colleagues, and it really goes way back. I started in radio in 1988 at WGN Radio. I was an intern, actually, for Chuck Swirsky, who is a colleague now, and I work with the guy after that named Eddie Schwartz, who ironically was kind of, the king of late-night radio. Eddie worked from 11 a.m. till 5 a.m., and that was my first full-time job in radio. And Eddie, talked about news, talked about politics, talked about sports. And once in a while, Les, would call in and do sports. So I first met Les, I think, in 1989, one of my first years in the business. And we were friendly. And then I was at WMVP, and Les worked there. And then I came over here to the Score in 2005, and we had syndicated programming overnight. I think it was Fox Sports Radio. And it took me a little while, but I was always obviously a firm believer in overnight live radio. And we've been fortunate to have that. Overnight, as we're talking now at, almost 10 minutes after 3 a.m., there are first responders out there. There are police officers. There are firefighters. There are ambulance drivers. There are third shifters. There are people that can't sleep. There are people that are getting up and going to the bathroom. And it's an undervalued audience in the middle of the night. So by 2009, I really wanted to do this. So I called Les and, hi, Mitch. Les, I don't know if we had talked in probably 5 or 6 years. And I said, what are you up to these days? Yeah, just reporting. He worked for the Associated Press and was a stringer and would cover games and would travel. And I'm not sure if Braniff Airlines was still in business, but we all knew Les was, quadruple platinum on Braniff Airlines, meaning he could fly anywhere for free. And I said, I have an idea I want to run by you, and I want to resurrect overnights on the Score. When do you want me to start? We didn't even talk money or anything. I go, how's Monday? I'll be there. So within 3 minutes, we had a deal, and he started Monday. And,
God.
From 2009, I'm not even sure which month we started, he was on the air doing overnights. And it just turned into special radio. Now, previous to that, again, I started in 2005. I'm trying to think the dates. I think he was doing overnights up until 98 or 99, and then he left the station. So he was used to that, but he was so hungry to come back and do what he did best and talk to the audience. And Mark, we have colleagues, and you and I, and we feel terrible. We feel terrible for Kathy, his longtime partner of 22 years. We feel terrible for Scott and his family, who we heard earlier on tonight. But who I really feel terrible for are the people listening right now, the friends that Les made in overnight radio, the friends that people Les never met, but they considered Les a friend, all the callers that you've spoken to tonight, the people that we're talking to in the Chicagoland area, the people that we're talking to throughout the Midwest, the people that we're talking to in 38 states that this signal reaches, the people that we're talking to in 4 Canadian provinces that this 50,000-watt station reaches, they considered Les a friend overnight. They would turn the radio on, whether in bed or in their cars, driving around. Like I said, that's what overnight radio is. It's longer listening. It's people that can't sleep. Les never met these people, maybe once in a while through Facebook or social media. But to me, overnight radio is listening to a friend. And friendships usually go 2 ways, right, Mark? When you're friends with somebody, this type of thing, it's usually one way. It's the person considered Les a friend. But again, there was no way Les could meet all these people. And that's what makes overnight radio special, and that's what made Les special. And that's, thinking a lot about this, who I feel really bad for is all these people that will have a void in their life that Les will never be heard live again talking to these people. And that's what really, hits me the hardest.
Yeah, no, and the connection that he has made with so many callers by just being the comfortable voice, a voice that became in a lot of ways very predictable, and I mean that in a good way. You knew that if there was a big game in the NFL and it was delayed because of like 17 replays, Les is going to go hard against replay.
Right.
He's going to go hard against the designated hitter being taken out of the National League. He's going to go hard if he sees a 3-on-3 hockey game.
Right. Gary Bettman, his hatred for the NHL commissioner.
Oh my God, yes, Beavis Bettman, indeed. And those are things that were very predictable. It's almost like a rerun, but we would still watch it because the reruns were just as good as the live shows that he did. It's like, okay, he's gonna do the thing where he makes fun of the colors of the Green Bay Packers. He's gonna do the thing,
right?
And it was just like he had all these great. They were almost like what catchphrases were used to be in sitcoms. Les had all of these triggers that we all knew what was coming. I knew what was coming when I would, antagonize him or poke the grobber, however you want to phrase it. I would know what was coming, and I'd have to be prepared to fight my side of it, and just hope that Les didn't bite me too hard sometimes.
Right. And, a couple, and I know we'll talk about a bunch of things, couple interesting things. Once, COVID started, it will be almost 2 years, I think, in March. We made the decision here, safety first, as you know, and let's be transparent. Tonight you sound technically and content perfect. You're working from home, and we want to be safe. Les has not been physically at this station since that whatever day was in March when basically the world shut down. And a number of reasons. Number one, safety, right? We for everybody's sake, safety first. We held people back. People were able to broadcast from home. The other thing, and Les and I talked, and Les was open about it. He lived in Elk Grove Village. I said, Les, save money on gas. You don't have to park downtown. You sound fine. Broadcast from home. Are you sure? Les, broadcast from home. So, I physically have not seen him in close to 2 years. But we had a special relationship. I'll take you kind of behind the curtain. I'm not sure if you know this. But so, as you know, I'm crazy, regimented in my time. I get up early every day. I sit outside the Starbucks near my house. They open at 5. I get out there about 10 to 5, hoping they'll open early, which they never do. And Les signs off probably, with Sean Sears at 4:54. So as soon as I hear that music, I'll call Les. And with the technology at home, he has to disconnect his line so we can, make sure it's freed up for whoever needs it next. and he'll always answer the phone, I'm disconnected. And then we'll spend 3 minutes and go over everything from what he's doing that day to what I have planned. To either, if it's a Monday, how was his weekend? If it's a Friday, what are you looking ahead to? To he's taking Kathy out to lunch, how bad the Bears played, how were the Cubs and Sox, and we'll do our daily 3-minute check-in. And Mark, literally almost every day, that was our daily check-in, and I'm going to miss those. Those were, that was 3 minutes of our time. And then, I'd see the lights pop on in the Starbucks, and I go, Les, have a good day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And that was our daily, not even work-wise. It was, how are you? Good. And along the way in this modern time, it would be, I got my first shot today, and then, a month later, I got my second vaccine, and then later, I got my booster. I feel fine. And, Kathy's good. I took Kathy's dad to the doctor, everything in his life. But these were 3-minute, hit and run questions.
That's unbelievable. That's great. And one of the things that I have, the relationship between Grobber and I really developed at the Score once again when I used to do updates in the morning for first the Mully and Hanley show, and then the Mully and Haw show, the current show on the Score. And I would come in to get prepared, and at about 4:40 every day, Les and I would do it. I guess you really couldn't call it a true transition. Les and we talked every day.
20 minutes sometimes. It was long.
Yeah, we would talk. And the best part about it is I think it was pretty safe to say that you were a huge fan of our transition.
Yes.
And you would text me ammo like, hey,
God.
ask him about this airlines or ask him about
secrets.
that. Yeah. Just every once in a while, or it was just it would get out of hand once you called in. I think when to break up what looked like a fight between the two of us. What was it about that you just really you were like, I feel safe and saying you were a fan?
Oh, I love that. That was real radio, and two guys, just going back and forth. And Les grew up on the north side of Chicago, and he and I always used to like to talk about all the restaurants that are not there anymore. There was a place at Howard and Western called the Pickle Barrel. And, he would talk about that and other Jewish delis that are no longer around that he grew up in. There a street called Devon Avenue that his grandmother used to take him to. And same thing, my grandmother. So, common things. And, you guys would be in transition, and I would throw you random names of either restaurants or streets, and you would throw it out there, and he would just assume that you knew it. But you grew up nowhere near there, nor did you ever hear that place until I texted you.
Exactly.
But you sounded like an expert, and unless, it just went right by him. Like you would know what Salmon Highs was, which was a deli in Skokie, but you had no idea what Salmon Highs was, Grote.
Right. And he thought the best of me. Apparently, he just thought I knew every part of this city.
Yes.
But that is.
As I was saying, the hardest part, again, the people that I mourn for everybody. Obviously, Kathy, his family, people here at the station. But it's this audience. It's this overnight audience. And again, we've heard from callers and through social media, and I have to tell you, it's so overwhelming, the outpouring. How about the media, Grotes? Through social media, every columnist, every TV, radio personality through social media, people, driving home from night games, whether baseball or hockey or basketball, Les was must radio, right? So you cover an extra inning Sox game, you get out of there at midnight after filing a story, and you put on the Score, and, Les is talking about something, and it kind of keeps you company. It's a great companion. It was the Grobber.
It was. It was the same Grobber all the time, and you knew there was going to be a unique spin. There was going to be a spin that maybe you were just like, what the hell are you talking about, Les? No, that's not true at all. But he would stick to his guns, and you should stay out of his path when it came down to that. And we do want to still entertain phone calls for anybody who would like to share about Les
Yes,
Grobstein.
would love to talk to callers.
Absolutely. 312-644-6767. And I have been told, we might take a break here, Mitch, but I've been told that there is a score caller, Rocco from Cicero, who has the distinction of having been the only score caller that ever won Bum of the Week, or maybe it was Bum of the Year.
Oh, boy.
But Bum of the Week, okay, so that is confirmed. And I do believe Rocco would like to share with us. So hopefully we will hear the past audio and then hopefully talk to the current Rocco and see just what the hell happened.
Let's go to Cicero, where Rocco is going to check in. Hello, Rocco. Good morning.
Good morning, Les. How are you, my friend?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Just calling you with a little quick bum of the week, my friend. And that goes to Tony La Russa. He's an old man, and this is when it's going to show that he's way out of touch of baseball.
But winning it for the first time ever. And we've had a couple of callers win it before, but this time Rocco of Cicero, he gets voted Bum of the Week, and thus far is the Bum of the Week. This is Rocco from Cicero.
Only on the Les Grobstein show can callers become that distinct. You know, there's been some distinct callers through the years in other day parts on the score, but I don't think like the Les Grobstein show, like Score Overnight, as we welcome you back into Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, along with Mitch Rosen, the program director of The Score, the man who hired Les Grobstein into overnights at The Score. That's Mitch Rosen. I am Mark Grote. We are celebrating, mourning, discussing the life of Les Grobstein because he did pass away on Sunday afternoon. And Mitchie, we just heard that Rocco from Cicero was victorious in Bum of the Week, and Rocco joins us on The Score now. What's going on, Rocco?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, Rocco.
It's a sad morning. I got to say, I was listening last night, and when Les wasn't on, I knew something was wrong because they didn't come on with any reason that Les wasn't going to be on in the evening, and I knew something was wrong. I said, "What's going on here?" Because Les should be on right now. It's midnight, and they had CBS overnight or whatever it is, and I'm very sorry you guys lost your friend.
Hey, Rocco, I was talking a couple minutes ago, and I looked at Les with callers and with listeners like you, that Les was a companion, somebody that you turned to, and so many others, thousands of people throughout the night, kind of a friend that you depended on every night. And friendships obviously are two ways, but it was almost like a one-way friendship. Do I describe that in the right way? Les you guys probably never met in person, but it was a one-way friendship that you look forward to every night. Is that accurate?
Very accurate. I looked forward to coming on at midnight because I worked third shift, and I would wait for him to come on, and I would look forward to it. And, yeah, it was a one-way thing. I never met Les Grobstein, unfortunately. I wish I would have. I would have loved to have an omelet with the guy. I had a cup of coffee with the guy.
Sure.
But at the same time, he was a guy who, from midnight to 5 a.m. And then, what I used to really like and look forward to was him and Mark, you and Mark, going at it at like 4:40 in the morning.
Oh yeah.
He would spar over things, over the White Sox, over the Cubs, and in a friendly way. I mean, that was really a great thing. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not the only guy who's going to miss this man.
No.
And
Amen.
And sit here and go, well, what am I going to listen to now?
what's going to be on.
Yeah, Rocco, we will give us a little time. Obviously, this was sudden to all of us. Les and I talked every day. He was under the weather. We did not expect this. This was sudden. He and I talked Sunday at 11 a.m., and he passed away Sunday around 5:30 p.m. So sudden, but be patient. And like everybody else, we so much appreciate you listening and the friendship that you had with Les, and so many others did.
Mitch, you know what's happening right now. You do realize what's going on. We're getting deeper into the Grobber callers. Do you notice that? Like, I don't know how much you've listened tonight, but it's been pretty normal. And now Rocco from Cicero, we're starting to get into the Grobber callers here, because he was just deluxe, and I don't know why, but I did have a moment when he said, I don't know what they had on CBS Radio, and I'm thinking the program director's here.
It's fine.
CBS Radio or whatever.
We're an open book. I'm waiting for Adam to talk about the Wolves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We have another special treat on the line here, Mitch Rosen. We have joining us now from the Chicago Sun-Times. He covers the Chicago Bears every day of his life. He is Mark Potash, and Potsy, definitely a longtime listener to Grobber, a participator to Grobber as well. This is a show, Mark Potash, that you listened to Score Overnight relatively frequently, did you not?
Yeah, not as much lately, Mark, but certainly over the years, absolutely was even a caller. I tweeted earlier today after heard about Les passing that I won a T-shirt on Les's show as a caller years ago, and I think I was also a guest on the same year. That was an oddity, but I'll never forget that because. I don't think he knew who I was, and he gave me a tough assignment. The contest was defending. It was the 1984 Cubs versus the 89 Cubs, a typical Les contest. And,
I love it.
And so somehow he gave me the 89 Cubs, which was not the one you wanted to have. And I don't know. Maybe he did know it was me because he gave me the T-shirt. So still have it. Really appreciate it, but. That was kind of what Les and I we kind of shared just a love of just sports, nostalgia, radio, and everything. And it was just that's why it was shocking. I really think Steve Rosenblum hit the nail on the head when he said, we just never Les was the guy you never thought would die. And I agree. That was my first thought. I expressed that to you earlier today. Was that you never I took Les for granted, and I feel I feel a lot of. Sadness because of that and regret that I think a lot of people do is that you always expect him to be there so that he's not going to be. It's kind of difficult, but thank you for doing this show, Mark. That's really what I wanted to call also was to thank you. I know it's not a tough assignment and, nobody can fill Les's shoes. I thought it was funny that, people somebody wanted to promote you to continue working a shift that only Les could work. I'm sure you'd love to hear that.
Hey, Potsy, we're still in negotiations. Ixnay on that with Grote.
Well, I will say this. I really hope, and I sense that I don't know the business, kind of the business dealings of radio, but I kind of sense that might be the end of it. I really would hope that Score Overnights would continue, but I guess you got to find the right guy because it really takes. You talked about Eddie Schwartz before, and Les, and you really need a personality to do that. So in this day and age, it'd probably be tough. But just as a sports fan, as a longtime sports radio fan, I would add to that sentiment of the previous caller. I would love to see it continue. I love local programming, and I love local programming overnight. So if there's a way to do that, that would be great. But I would just want to call and just say, I miss. I was just shocked and saddened at losing Les. He was a friend and a friend to everybody, and I think we're all obviously going to miss him. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Potsy, thank you. And Les was an original, and you are too, a longtime journalist in Chicago at the Sun-Times. Real quick about overnight radio, and I mentioned this, at 3 o'clock when I jumped on with Mark. It's such an undervalued time slot with third shifters and first responders, police officers, firefighters, ambulance drivers, and just the normal people that can't sleep. Whenever I see Jerry Reinsdorf at ballparks, he'll always say, Les is my favorite show because I can't sleep, or if I have to get up and go to the bathroom. And there's a lot of people, insomniacs that can't sleep. So it's a vital day part, and we're going to do our best. We'll never, ever, ever replace somebody like the Grobber, but we'll do our best to have live and local programming. Potsy, being around press boxes for so long, can you share your favorite press box story about the Grobber with our audience?
Well, I can't say that I have like a story or whatever. But it was funny you talk about seeing Les at press boxes, and once you started Les, you couldn't stop him. So, like, if you were just before a game, you had to kind of time your greeting of Les. In fact, the last time I saw him, I didn't say anything to him because it was too close to kickoff, and I knew that if I started something, Les and I, we love trivia,
right.
And so we love sports history, and I've been around myself a long time, so if we got onto something, that was one thing I really liked about Les, is it was so easy to get him started. It was like, I was thinking about this the other day, there was like an inadvertent whistle in a game, I think it was the Bengals and the Raiders, and I was thinking, wow, that was just like the game in 1976, the Bears game, when Chuck Heberling, if I would have brought that up to Les, he would have been talking all night about this 76 game against the Raiders. Mm-hmm. The Raiders were going to win the Super Bowl that year. They had John Madden, and Roger Still returned a fumble and an inadvertent whistle. Les would give you many more details than I could about the aftermath, but that was what Les was all about. In fact, I think the last time I called him on the show, it was pre-COVID, because I haven't really called. I just haven't been listening as much. But it was just before COVID, and I saw him at like a Bulls game. It was Bulls or Blackhawks game, and it was in March of like 2019, right around DePaul, the 40th anniversary of DePaul's Spinal 4 team. And so I brought up to Les, it was after the game, I must have already filed or whatever, and Les was doing his thing. And I just mentioned to it. I said, DePaul didn't really do anything for that 40, they didn't seem to have a ceremony or honor in any, but that you got him started on DePaul basketball and then Loyola basketball. I ended up actually calling him on the show that night, I think, just to talk we spent 20 minutes talking about DePaul basketball.
Yeah,
and that 1979 team. But that was less. When you saw him no matter where you saw him, you had to make sure you had enough time,
right?
Because for him to tell you his story, because he was good, he was great at it. It was great. I loved hearing all the details, and it was just great. His recall was amazing. So yeah, that's probably what I remember most. About Les was just how easy it was to get him going, and that. And he just couldn't get him to stop. It was great. There was a point in every conversation where I think you thought, "Wow, this guy's taking this stuff way too seriously." Every time you talk to him, but I think I knew him well enough to know. And I don't think callers did, but I think I knew him well enough to know that at another point in the conversation, you realize that Les had a life. Les was more than that. And frankly, I'm very glad of that. Because I think to me. The most important thing about Les, especially now that he's gone, was I think there was a point in his career where he was, and we will make fun of Les till the day we all die. I mean that's part of being Les is having fun at his expense. But there was a point where he was kind of more of a punchline in town, kind of a gadfly or whatever. It was he was not Les, and I think later in his career, I think thanks to this run at the Score. I think John Greenberg's story, the story he did in The Athletic, he became beloved, truly beloved, not just because he's gone. And I think, I don't know if that mattered to Les, but that matters to me, knowing that Les, I'm nerdy like Les is, that mattered to me that at the end, not just the last year, so for the last several years, he was a beloved, truly beloved and appreciated figure in Chicago sports. And I think that's important. I think I'm not happy for Les. Sorry that he's gone, but I'm happy for him that he had that status, to the end.
Yeah, Potsy, I think that's very valid. I think, early in his career, he worked with Landecker, he worked with Dahl, and that was part of radio. I'm not going to say he was the punching bag, but he was kind of the foil, right? I mean, he was kind of the guy that they would make fun of, in a fun way. I don't think he was ever mean or vicious, but I think when he went to WMVP and did talk, and then at the Score his first time, and then back here, there was a legitimacy to what he did. And I think you bring up a very, very valid point in his career, especially this last run, that him, taking calls overnight and being part of the quote-unquote team, I think made him feel good and made him feel part of it. And I didn't really think about that till you brought that up, and I think there's a lot of validity to that.
We're going to go back now, Mitch Rosen, to the sports phone days.
Wow.
Because Brian Wheeler is joining us now.
Wow, legend.
What's up, Brian?
Mark and Mitch, great to be on with you. I wish, obviously, it had been under better circumstances, but it's been fun just being on hold and hearing all the great stories of Les, of which there are many to tell, more so than I'm sure one overnight show could possibly hope to be able to get to.
Wow. Mark, before you get even more of an intro, Brian Wheeler, of course, sports phone, Loyola, but the long time voice of the Portland Trailblazers, Brian Wheeler, is legendary. Brian, we're honored to have you on. I hope you're well, bud.
Well, I appreciate you guys saying that. That's I mean, I really, when I heard the news about Les, I just, like everybody else is saying, I was convinced that this was somebody that was going to live forever. In fact, I thought when the world would end, that what would be left would be cockroaches, Keith Richards, and Les. I just thought those would be the three elements. They'll still be around, and so just and now knowing that only the other two have a chance to still exist at the end of the world is really, really disheartening and disappointing. But gosh, I've known the guy for 40 years, and it was always I know we've heard some great stories about him and so forth, and I was just going to share two quick ones with you guys. And
please.
During his, of course, we've heard so much already about his travel habits and how often he would be racing from one plane to another to catch a flight to get to one game so he could get back and maybe return to catch a game in the city that he was leaving the very next day and so forth. But he always had a habit when he was covering games, when he would leave the press box, wherever it would be, of finding his way to the cooler and grabbing a couple of Cokes, for his ride home.
I did not drink alcohol, Brian.
No, that's right. He did not drink alcohol. That's right. But one day he was racing. I don't think he ever made a plane with more than about 10, 15 minutes to spare, based on all the crazy times that he had to schedule and try to do things and fit everything into the old 10-pound of material into a 5-pound bag or something. But he was racing to the airport one time at O'Hare, and I guess he tripped, and his briefcase flung open on the floor, and all that came out were about 20 cans of Coke or Diet Coke, whatever was in there at the time.
that he had stuffed in there.
Yeah, I'm thinking that as the years have gone on, the number of cans have probably grown to an inordinate number. But I had heard 20 at one time, so I think it's probably pretty accurate to say that. But he was unfazed by it, and just pretty much made sure nobody tripped on it, and I think it recovered as many as he could, and knowing full well that the next time he was going to be at the stadium or at Wrigley Field or Comiskey Park, he would be able to get a new supply once he got there. But and the only other story, well, I shouldn't say the only other story. I would have had plenty more, but I hadn't heard many people talk about his great ability to, of course, call in from live events, and even after his days of leaving Sports Phone. And of course, when I started there, the legendary people that preceded me were Les, Pat Petkowski, David Schuster, Fred Huber was still working there.
Dick Gonski? Was Dick Gonski there?
Dick Gonski, yes. Dick Gonski was there. In fact, Les had, hopefully you guys heard him over the years, not only people talk about him having the Lee Ilya tirade, but he had so many great blooper, cuts of his Sports Phone days and so forth. And he has a Dick Gonski one of him trying. He used to do a thing on every day called Dick's Picks. And he was doing it from home one day, and I guess he was right in the middle of it, and then he had to stop, and he said, "Hold on, my family's walking all over the house." And you hear me yell at the kids, "I got this to do," and then, so it's like, "Stay out of my way." And so he had all these great bloopers, but he would still do a great service to Sports Phone even when he left full time. if he was covering an event and Sportsman didn't have a stringer to go, he would say, "Do you want me to call in with some with some updates?" And so I was there on a nighttime shift when Chicago was hosting. We didn't really have a lot of local boxing, great boxing with kind of national names and so forth. But this particular night, I think it was at the Horizon, the old Rosemont Horizon, that Marvis Frazier, Joe Frazier's son, was fighting, and so he was the big attraction to the show. And so Les called in. It was the main event, and Marvis Frazier won with a very controversial decision. Apparently, most people in the crowd were convinced that he had lost the bout, but boxing, boy, what a surprise! Has the judges that maybe weren't very sharp or whatever the case might be. But Les was doing the voicer, as soon as possible when the decision was announced, and I still remember saying. The crowd is getting unruly as I'm getting pelted with debris, and of course he stretched out the debris, and
right.
I said, "Les, you better get out of there." I said, "Take cover." Yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get under the table, in fact. And I can imagine him doing just that. But what a character! What a personality! And we always say sometimes when somebody passes on, there'll be nobody like that person. But I think we can truly say, with all great honesty and correctness, that there won't be another Les Grobstein to come down the pike anytime soon, I'm sure.
No doubt.
Amen. Brian, thank you so much for checking in. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And one other thing, 976-1313.
That's right. That's right.
Sports phone.
In fact, if I know Les, he's already up in heaven giving God a quickie quiz right about now. So I'm sure he's offering him a sports phone T-shirt if he can get it right, and if he's the first caller to do so. But
have a great night, Brian. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Brian Wheeler, Portland Trailblazers, obviously former sports phone guy and Grobber colleague and Grobber friend. Let's continue on with the phone calls. You never know who's going to pop up, but we go to Dylan in Seattle. Hi, Dylan. You're on the Score.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Dylan?
Let's go to somebody else, Sean.
Okay, Dylan. That was perfect. Let's go to Rich in Old Town. Rich, you're on the Score.
Morning.
Hey, Rich.
I'm a transplant of 23 years, and I've lived all over the country. And kind of, it's interesting that I kind of connected with Les a long time ago and started calling in fairly frequently, and that he kind of stimulated my thinking about things. But I got to tell you something, from having lived all over the United States, here's how I would characterize him. And I don't think this is a negative, because some people do, but I don't. He is probably the biggest homer I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that checks out.
I mean, the guy is such an advocate of Chicago sports, and he's so knowledgeable that he kind of converted me. I'm originally from Florida, and I've lived all over, but I've been here a long time. And regardless of the sport, he got me really interested, and really not only in his show, because I'm a late-night guy too, but your radio station, where I call in from time to time, and I really like you guys. You guys do a great job. And having lived in big markets, you're exactly right. You don't find anyone anywhere that has overnight local sports programming. Because I got to tell you something, this is from having been around. When you have syndicated CBS radio, and there's some good guys on that, but I got to tell you, I'll take Les over all the syndicated guys. And I hope Mitch Rosen is still listening.
I don't know. He's difficult to know. It's Mitch, Rich. Thanks. Hey, Rich, when you say Les is a homer, but he's honest. When the Bears aren't playing good, he's going to go after him. When the Cubs and Sox aren't playing good, he's going to be honest. So when you say homer, he's an honest homer, I believe.
No, he is. I'm not criticizing that.
No, I know. I'm being honest like you are.
Yeah, you guys, what he is you can call homer, but he more than that, he is just incredibly protective and territorial about his teams, which means he can be as pissed off and as angry at them, but if somebody else comes, if these people from Green Bay are going to start calling and trolling him, he will protect the Bears to the death.
I don't think that's the reason I really like him. And I shouldn't say know him. I've probably talked to him over 20 years, and we have some mutual friends that I'm sure you know that I won't blurt out on the air. But I'm a advertising guy, big corporate guy, and I know the media guys. So I know a lot of the guys that are cut from your cloth, and I have a lot of friends in the business. And the thing that I think is really remarkable to me is I haven't heard one guy, and I don't mean just the tribute and testimonial to Les, but throughout the years, I've never heard anybody that I know that could say anything negative about him.
No, he was a legend.
Yep.
Hey, Rich, thanks for calling, man. We really appreciate it as we salute and honor the legend, the Grobber.
Yes, we are. Yes, the big executive right there with the call. Rich, thank you so much. And we're getting into it. We're getting into the Grobber calls. There's no doubt about it. And we still see your calls lining up. Mitch Rosen, Scores Program Director, is right there. I am right here. I am Mark Grote. We have another full hour of honoring and celebrating Les Grobstein, who died on Sunday afternoon. We plan to continue to do that by taking your calls, and I think we've got some classic Grobber clips coming up. So we will definitely be finishing strong in this final hour on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score.
Just let the guys make the calls. They've been doing this for 1 billion years. Let them keep doing it. They're the best in the business. Are they perfect? No, they're going to make mistakes. But I don't care what anybody says. They say, oh, you got the equipment, you got all this. No, those things can break down and make mistakes too. 708, Les, what if the Russians hack the strike zone system? Laughing out loud. That's Sean from West Lawn. Sean, I'm glad you put the LOL in there. Yeah, they're going to think the Russians are there, and they're going to say, "Do svidaniya, you're out of the game."
Oh, you're saying collusion, potential collusion.
That's what the texter says. And then the 206 guy says, "What if the Russians hack the robot umpires?" That's right. Another person says, Les does not understand technology. I bet I understand it as much as you do. I know plenty about technology. Believe me. We had technology cost us to not have the text screen on yesterday's show, which is why we delayed for 24 hours the Bum of the Week balloting. I know exactly what you're talking about here.
It's just the beautiful thing about Les Grobstein drops is that they are numerous, but even the ones that you think you may have heard many times, they're still hilarious every single time. Just the beauty of Les Grobstein as we continue to honor his life here on Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score, along with the program director of The Score, Mitch Rosen. I am Mark Grote, and this is Score Overnight, unfortunately, without Les Grobstein. We see you guys lining up, wanting to get in here and talk to us at 312-644-6767 is the number. Some fun text messages coming in as well, Mitch. But there's one thing that struck me from, I think it was Potash. When Potash said that he wanted to talk to Les, but the game was close to starting, so he didn't have time. He didn't want to take the time. Anytime that Les calls me, when I see the name Les Grobstein pop up,
right,
I have to be in a certain mode. I have to know that no matter how simple his question is going to be,
right,
I'm going to need 20 minutes on this call to get through everything that even if it's going to be a simple, it's like going to Target. Right. You go in there and wanting one or two things, you walk out with a $57 bill. Grobber's conversations are all at a minimum 15 minutes.
You were going to be grobbered.
Yeah. You're going to be grobbered.
Right.
Yes.
Hey, Mark, I just, it's the top of the hour, and I just wanted to, again, you've been cooking since midnight. You were on yesterday, middays filling in for Dan and Layla, but with the top of the hour rolling over and people getting up and people hitting the road early to go to work, I just wanted to, again, thank all of our listeners. Our staff is mourning. The people of Chicago, media people are mourning. Obviously, his family, Scott and his children and his wife, Kathy, his longtime partner, but the audience. You know, when I think of Les and the loss that Les has passed away, I think of the overnight audience. All these people, thousands of people throughout Chicagoland, throughout the Midwest, that Les was their friend. And, you know, the reason that you're on tonight, that you've allowed me to jump on for a couple hours and for us to talk to the listeners, Les was everybody's friend overnight. They were able to listen to him. Some people called in. Some people texted in. And these are not just people that couldn't sleep overnight. These are first responders. These are police officers. These are firefighters who couldn't sleep or who are out on runs. These are third shifters who are working in factories that are keeping, you know, America going and things like that. So I just want to say thank you. We know you miss Les. We miss Les. It's only been a day. You know, he passed away Sunday around 5:30 p.m., and we know it's hard on everybody. It will continue to be. We'll do our best to replace Les. Nobody can replace him. Nobody is like Les. He is a true original. But I give our audience my word that we will do our best. And we wanted to be here for you this overnight with his audience. You know, we could talk about Les throughout all of the different day parts and the shows on the score. But the most important day part for Les's audience was Les's show. And that's why you're here, Mark, and I thank you. And that's why, and I thank you for allowing me to jump in for a couple hours and ride shotgun with you.
No, you're doing great. Just keep the energy up, Mitch. Let's
Thank
go
you.
to
Reset, Mark.
reset. Let's go to those grabber callers, Mitch, and let's start with Frank on I-80. Frank, thank you for calling. What's going on?
Hey, Brody, how you doing? I missed our member from 5 to 6 between you and Les. That was the best. But you're moving up, Brody. I know you are, because I see you getting more and more involved in the score and getting better and better gigs. So I think it'll be just fine. It'll just be fine. But I'm a big Packers fan, and let's stop.
Get off my phone. No, I'm kidding.
Go ahead, Frank. Did you just scare Frank away, Mitch?
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead, Frank.
No, you're not going to scare me away,
No.
because Les stopped me many times. Sean knows it, because I got into it with the Packers. I told him if the Packers win the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, man.
Oh, come on, Mark. He's going to win. And Mitch,
Yes.
they're going to win. The
They're-
only problem they got is San Francisco. They're 0-3 against them. But the thing is Les used to say, I told him to put a cheese head on him. And you know what Les said, Mark? He said he'd kick his own ass.
Frank and Mark, what was the story behind Les singing Bear Down Chicago Bears in the Packers press box? Frank, do you remember that story?
Yeah, I remember everything, Mitch. I was there since timeshare.
What was the story behind that one? Did he lose a bet?
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
He did lose the bet, and he had to sing it, and he just was. Everything about the Packers annoyed him.
Right, I know
He
that.
had a dog. If he had a dog, he wouldn't even. He let him pee on the.
Easy. We're in safe harbor.
Hey, Frank, shot in the dark. You interested in hosting score overnights going forward?
Send me an audition tape, Frank. Where do you live, Frank?
You know what? My heart went out. I'm going to be honest with you. When Les died, I think Sean, I'll be honest, I think Sean be a good candidate for overnight.
Thanks,
Okay.
Frank.
Absolutely.
Frank, thank you for listening. Like I said, I know you probably lost a friend that you never met.
Yep, and that's Frank right there. That was beautiful.
People considered him such a friend that kept them company overnight, and that's what radio is, especially late night and overnight radio.
It is as intimate as it gets in terms of the medium. You're correct, and Les took that intimacy to another level just by the nature of doing overnights and by the nature of being Les Grobstein. Like, you listeners feel like they know us. Guess what? He's the one guy that, you probably do know Les, because that's exactly what he's like in real life, which has served him well. For the most part, sometimes it doesn't, but for the most part, it has. And that brings me to a really quick question for you, Mitch, before we go back to more calls. Have you ever had to discipline Les for anything he said on the air? Did Les ever get to the the edge of anything, or that we don't know about?
Yeah, one thing got personal with you, Mark. I don't know if you remember this, and obviously you've been very open about this. You know, you went through rehab for alcoholism. You've been very open about that. I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago, I think you and Les got in one of your spats in transition. And again, you guys always kiss and made up, but he made an offhanded comment like, you've been drinking or something like that. So I called Les afterwards and I said, hey, Les, Mark's been very open about this, but please don't kid around about. Oh, and he felt terror. I don't know if he called you and apologized, but I don't know if he forgot that, you know, obviously you were very open about that. There's no secrets here. When you were ready to talk about that, you did. And yes, I did. There was no disciplinary action, but I did call him as a friend of yours. I said, Les, you know, think about what you said. And he did feel bad about that. So I do remember that. Yeah.
Wow. Now I feel just awful that
Why?
the one time you sort of disciplined
Was you?
him was because of me.
Yes. Yes.
Bad.
No, but I didn't. No, Les was very safe. And Sean, there's that famous, you know, that everybody uses, dump him, dump him, dump him.
Yeah,
and, you know, he knew when the right time was to hit the dump button. I do, speaking of that, I do remember something recently that for some reason, I really got a kick out of. You know, the station last summer, we did an all-day radiothon, and it was unbelievable. In 24 hours, our listeners, donated over $700,000 to build a grocery store in a food desert in the Austin neighborhood. And sports celebrities called in. Roger Goodell called in, Jason Hayward. And there was a lineman, I believe, from the New York Giants. I think he grew up in the northern suburbs, went to Loyola Academy, and I think he was on with Parkins, and they were talking, and it was serious conversation and how important this is. And the player, and I forgot his name, said, Danny, you know, before we hang up, I want to tell you something. I grew up listening to the score, and when I was a junior in high school, I think I was 16, my buddies and I, the most fun we've had was we would call the grobber, and nothing scandalous, but we would prank them, and we would hang up and listen for how we would react. And that was a fun Friday night to us. So, again, you know, Les would deal with all kinds of callers. And the producers throughout the year, Sean and so many others, unfortunately, would have to deal with, you know, people intoxicated or idiots that would call in late at night, and they would have to dump them if they swore or something like that. But so here's this NFL lineman who, talking about a serious topic, raising money, he goes, wait, one more thing. We really like to call the grobber and prank him when we were 16 years old. So, again, I forgot his name, but it was classic.
Was it David Deal?
No, he went to Brother Rice.
Okay.
No, it wasn't David Deal. It was recent. This guy was probably 24, 25 years old.
Okay. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, just another great example of the effect that Grobber has had on so many people, so many different generations. Let's keep talking to Grobber's fans. It's Pete in Edgebrook. Hi, Pete. You're on the score.
Oh, hi. Thank you for taking my call. Gosh, a lot of things I've been thinking of now. Mitch, you mentioned growing up on the north side. I did, too. I went to Sullivan High School.
Mm-hmm.
And one place that you and I'm sure Les knew about was Ashkenaz on Morris Avenue.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Best corned beef on the north side.
And you said that it was like a one-way street. I'm not so sure. I think Les really looked forward to listening to his callers, and we learned so much about him. Once I asked him what his address was. We grew up in
Albany Park,
in North Park area. Yeah, it was 6215 Springfield. I went there and took a picture of Solomon Elementary School where he went to.
Yeah.
Now that thing about the Packers, he did that song for the Bears because the Bears won. They won there at Lambeau Field that time. And I was going to do this because then the Bears were losing. They started losing to the Packers, maybe 3 games in a row or something. I called up and I said, well, maybe the producer, maybe shouldn't tell Les this, but I was going to suggest that we were cursed. We were now cursed because of his song at Lambeau Field. And I was going to say the only way we could break that curse, Les was going to help us sneak in there with some of his callers. He had a lot of faithful callers like Adam of Villa Park and followed by Mike from East Chicago. And listen to this. The 4 of us would wear those cheesehead hats, and we'd be running around Lambeau Field in the middle of the night by ourselves saying, the Packers are good, the Packers are great.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow. Hey, Mark, thanks so much for your call. Hey, Mark, what is the famous Jim McMahon Super Bowl story. If you remember, remind the audience, didn't Les have the only story that McMahon got acupuncture treatment, a couple days before the Super Bowl in New Orleans? If you don't remember that, I apologize for putting you on the spot. But
No,
Robert
I
did a
do.
weekly interview with McMahon on LS Radio. Dustin, I know you're in the control booth. I don't know if you remember it, but Les was part of a news story because McMahon kind of went rogue from the training staff at the Bears. Does anybody remember the exact story there?
The exact story I don't remember, but I do remember Les becoming the story.
All right. Dustin
and
is
all
pulling
of-
up a mic. Hang on, Mark.
Okay, good.
Well, there was an allegation that McMahon had made a comment about the women of New Orleans.
Right.
And I don't remember exactly the verb.
But didn't it have to do with acupuncture? Am I crazy? I thought.
No, he mooned a helicopter.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
that
the
may have been-
acupuncture part.
Yeah.
But
That
the
may have been
helicopters were
concurrent.
circling over the field.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
Jim mooned, but Les went out of his way to defend McMahon, saying that he never said that. And he allegedly had said it on a New Orleans radio station.
Got it.
And it was all made up, and it was just to add fuel to the fire. But
Yeah.
Les was at front and center. So Les was going on radio stations all over the country because it was such a big deal. The
gosh.
85 Bears,
Yeah.
obviously, and the punky QB.
Yeah. Oh.
Yep, he was just lining up with the local TV station. Les, can I get you next? Les, can I?
Yeah.
He loved that.
Hi, Madonna. Over this way. There you go.
Oh, God.
We talk about how we're not supposed to become part of the story, but Grobbers always wants to be part of the story. So it's just a beautiful thing. And being there at the Super Bowl, Madonna, that's a classic right there.
Mark, more phone calls?
Yep.
Okay.
We got Christian in St. Charles. Hi, Christian. You're on the score.
Uh-oh. He's sleeping.
Christian.
It's Grobber. It's a Grobber caller. That's great. Mark, how can we do this without one caller sleeping?
Oh my God! Yeah, so I'd like to get Christian in the running for potential replacement with Frank for my 80.
Oh my God! Keep going.
All right.
That is
Okay,
so
let's-
Grobber caller.
You're acting like a newborn that's just been born or whatever. And I guess a newborn was just born, right?
One of our callers put it perfectly. As a matter of fact, maybe it was Brian Wheeler who called in earlier. He said, quote, Les had the life he wanted. He had the life he wanted, because sometimes we look at Les and we say, well, this guy's crazy. What is he doing? He's overnights and he's driving all over the place, and what is he doing? Why is he trying so and then you think about it. No, this is pretty much the pinnacle for Les. He got there. He got there. I mean, I don't know for a fact that this was his dream job, but it sure came across that way, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And he did so much else before this. We talked about Larry Lujak and Steve Dow, but he did play-by-play for the Chicago Hustle, for the Chicago Sky, Chicago Rush. UIC, a lot of people don't know this, but UIC Flames had a hockey team.
Yeah.
And I know Scott was on, his son was on with you, I think, in the 1 a.m. hour. Les traveled with him. They went to Alaska. He did play-by-play hockey in Alaska and throughout the country. And he traveled everywhere, with UIC Flames men's basketball and hockey. At some point, somebody's going to write a book. And, I'm giving the over-under on George Castle probably about 10 days before we see a book pop up on the life and times of the Grobber. But
Love George.
And I do think it's worthy of a book.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I would read the book, and he was threatening that book before he passed away, and it wasn't always good. Oh, you'll read about it in the book, and if you stepped out of line, occasionally he would threaten to put me in the book, but I insisted on being in the book. What do you say we take a couple
Let's go
more
to
calls
callers.
here,
I know
Mitch?
Mully and Hart
Yeah.
coming up at 5, so I'd love to hear as many friends of Les callers as we can, Mark.
Paul in Lindenhurst. Hi, Paul. You're on the score.
Hey, hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mitch.
Yes.
Hey, Mitch. At first, I want to thank you, man. You probably don't want to hear it, but when you brought Les back, man, you restored a general to his beloved army. Those of us that have been working overnights for 23 years for me, and you're a hero in the experience of Les. And thank you, man. Thank you. And I was hoping to get to three things. I'm only 48. years old, and I do go back to Les with the Larry Lujack show, though, because my dad loved Larry Lujack. And he would make us listen to it whenever he was home. And now my sister and I were little kids. We were watching Bozo and Tom and Jerry.
Sure.
We really didn't get Larry Lujack yet. But we loved animal stories, and I loved the sports report with Les. And a lot of people probably don't know this. Sports reports back in those days were almost information only. Maybe a sports guy would have a little color to him, but there was no interaction. And I don't know if Larry and Les invented it, but when Larry would start messing with Les on every sports report and interrupting him, and Les was the consummate professional, but you could always still hear in his voice the frustration of, like, just let me get through this sports report. Why are you asking me these questions? Who cares, you know? And and I love Les. And then, you know, fast forward years down the road, he's doing Score Overnight. What other sports talk guy would have a show that's called War on the Score? And he has a Sox fan and a Cubs fan call in, go on the air, and argue and go at it, which is just so classic. And so I call in, and I expect to go on the air with a Sox fan. And while I'm talking to Les, my girlfriend, who is a rabid Sox fan, and I'm a Cubs fan, starts giving me crap and arguing with me in the background. Les hears this, and he's like, he starts talking to her through me. And then the next thing you know, we're handing the phone back and forth to each other. I now have my own personal War on the Score in my house with my girlfriend. The next thing you know, he is inviting us on the show, like at another time, to come in studio and do it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just geeking out. So after the producer took our information, I started thinking, oh, he's not really going to call. It's just good for the show or everything. The guy calls me. Les Grobstein called me. I felt like I just met Metallica or something. I'm just like so. So Les started, and you know, he gets to the point when you're not talking sports, when he's going to have you on his show, and he starts going through it, and I have to interrupt him. And I said, Les, I'm sorry, we broke up. And you could never hear the nicest guy in the world, and he consoles me because I'm the one who's stumped. He consoles me for a few minutes, and he says, and I can't do Les as good as you, Mark, but he said, there's plenty of fish in the sea. When the next one comes down the road, if she's a Sox fan, give us a call. We'll get you on the show. I will love Les Grobstein forever. I love you guys. You know, sad day, but a great day for these memories, and how therapeutic this whole show was. Thank you, guys. If you let me say one more thing, because Les was just a consummate professional. There are certain sports personalities that would really give Les crap on the air, and it was funny. Callers would call in and try to tell him about it, and he wouldn't have any of it. He would say, I can't control what they say on other shows. I can only control what I say on mine. And
the Grobber's actually not that bad.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty spot on right there.
But that is that's what Les was about, Mark. That's callers loved him, listeners loved him, and he was their friend.
Phil in Mount Prospect is on the Score. Hi, Phil.
Good morning, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. And you know, it's fitting that 2 hours after Les passed away, ISU beat Bradley on Sunday night. I know his son was an alum of ISU, as was myself from Illinois State. So
me too.
I've been calling into the show probably dozens of times for the last 6 years. I work 5 nights a week. I typically will call in after I get off work on my way home, and I've just always enjoyed the show. I actually met Les once at a DePaul Northwestern basketball game at Welsh Ryan Arena over 2 years ago. I think DePaul won. It broke a 4-game losing streak against Northwestern. I went up to him before the game, introduced myself, and talked to him for about 10 minutes at the press table, and he talked to me as if he had known me for 20 years. So all the stories he came up with, and it was
Real
great.
quick,
Yeah.
speaking of that, Les was proud. Each year, Northwestern and DePaul played. Les handed out the award, the MVP award, at the end of that game as the media award, whoever was the MVP. Well, this year, it was canceled due to COVID, but he was all excited. He got the plaque. I had heard the news because we carried DePaul on the score, so I called him as soon as I got the word from Les. I have bad news. What's up? I'm getting ready. Said, Les, the game is canceled. And he was distraught because that game was canceled. That game was so important to him, Mark. Do you remember how important that game was to him?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember asking Les one time what his favorite sport was, and I always thought it was baseball, but I think it's college basketball. Like at the purest point of it, he really likes college basketball.
Cool. Hey, Mark,
Okay.
I know there's somebody special also listening right now. Kathy, Les's longtime partner of 22 years, just texting me. She's listening. And Kathy, Les talked about a lot on the air. You know, they've been together so long. And two people that have been together so long is a special bond. And he talks so fondly of her. And she's been with him all along the way. And you and I have obviously been in constant communication with her throughout. And just a special person, and we send our love out to Kathy and her family.
Absolutely. And I talked to Kathy, I guess now what would be last night, and she cracked me up because she said she was not the biggest sports fan, 22 years ago, pre-Grobber. And she said, I learned a lot of sports. Boy, did I ever. Which is an unmistakable occurrence if you're around Les Grobstein. There's no doubt about it. So hello to Kathy, and I'm glad that you're listening. We'll all get through this together. Let's go to Tracy on the south side. Hi, Tracy. You're on the score.
This is a hard day and night for all of us. But Les, you left a lot of people with a lot of memories and a lot of good memories. And he got me through a lot. I have epilepsy, and he was always there for me when I needed him. So, Les, you are special. And I got to tell you guys one story. I called in to talk about the Bulls, and he told me that I had a chance to win a prize. And he said, Tracy, all you have to do is tell me which player that Jordan shot over, and I couldn't think of it at the moment. And the answer was Craig Elo.
Of course.
And I he said, Tracy, you done seen that shot millions of times. You got me.
Oh, that's great, Tracy. I've heard Tracy call numerous times, and I did not know she had epilepsy, and I knew that there was something there, but she made Les feel absolutely comfortable, and again, Mitch, that's the essence of the man, right there.
No doubt. That's what made Les special, and that's what overnight radio is all about.
Tracy was one of Les's favorite callers. He would always, whenever I'd let him know that Tracy was on hold, he'd always bump her up to the top saying, get Tracy up here. Let's talk to her.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So it's great to hear from Tracy. Have Vince in Philadelphia on the score.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello, Vince.
Hi, good morning. I feel so terrible hearing of Les's passing there. I've been calling, I guess, over, I don't know, about 2 years or so, and I just always enjoyed the fact that Les is such a long-time established sports journalist in Chicago. Usually at this hour of the evening, you get like the, say, younger kids, so to speak, that handle overnight talk shows and things like that kind of get started. But it was so refreshing to hear somebody that knowledgeable and almost like an iconic figure in the city there. Ironically enough, we here in Philly, it's also an Odyssey station, but we recently lost our overnight personality a few months ago, I think in about October. He went by the moniker of Big Daddy Graham. He was like a local, comedian type of personality. He was friendly and things like that, but he was sort of like mostly a fan, like say, in terms of sports, but he wasn't like an actual journalist. I mean, he was fine, but that's why I just always look forward to listening to Les. I just thought I would always try to call in with like a Philly-Chicago type of connection, things like that. And like I said, that's just a real shame to. I think the last time I spoke with him too was I was telling Les, I said, because I'm someone who's battled a lot of medical issues. I said I'm hoping to get out to Chicago later this year in 22 because the Eagles are scheduled to play the Bears in Chicago. So I was really looking forward to that.
Cool.
So
thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 312-644-6767 is the number. Mitch, we've had a few people. Actually, there was one text earlier that I did want to ask you about, and some people have asked similar versions of this. And they're asking us to attempt to connect the dots of the Les Grobstein career, like an actual attempt at some sort of chronological order of occurrences in Les's career. Is that even possible with all the side hustles Les had? I don't know if there was a clean path to tell people how Les Grobstein sort of rose through the ranks and got to where he ended up.
I don't have an exact bio in front of me. Obviously, I know he grew up on the North Side. He went to Columbia College. Early in his career, he worked at WLS Radio, obviously with Lou Jack, and later with Stephen Gary. He ended up at WMVP for years, then at The Score. Obviously, he's had 2 tours of duty here at The Score. So, we could do some research or call on a score historian like Dan Dorfman to help us with that. But, he's had a historic career. And then, all his stringing work. He's worked for the Associated Press.
Oh, my God.
And a number of stations along the way. UIC, we've talked about all the teams, Mark. The Chicago Hustle, a former women's professional basketball team. Chicago Rush, a Arena League football team. And I'm sure there's so many others that, Chicago Cougars maybe, which was a professional hockey team that he may have worked for. So, it'd be interesting to sit down and actually lay out his resume, which would be just incredible.
God.
Speaking of teams, it was really impressive and very appreciative in an unbelievable way. The Chicago Bears sent out a statement about Les yesterday.
Yes.
I heard from them yesterday morning, and they told me they were going to do that. I know the Bulls have something planned shortly. Both the Cubs and White Sox reached out. The Blackhawks did something during their telecast last night. So
that's great.
Les obviously covered all these teams throughout his career, and just very gracious of all of them.
That is great. I did not know that. That is great to hear. And I saw the Bears tweet, but to hear that the involvement is throughout Chicago and the big teams that he covered, that's absolutely awesome.
You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.
Let's go to Mark in Monroe. Mark, you are on the score.
Yeah, hi there. Hi, Mark, and hi, Mitch. Thanks for taking my call. I've been listening to Les every morning since I have a commute to work. In fact, I work over at radio in Southwest Wisconsin, and he was my companion on my commute into work for about an hour into Southwest Wisconsin, where the Bears used to train at the UW Platteville. And I called in one morning when Les was on this Three Stooges kick. And so I called in and I said, hey, Les, I have a Three Stooges memory that goes back to 1983. And he goes, 1983? Well, they were gone long before that. I said, I know, but there was a song by a band, and he jumps right in and says, the Jump Sound Band.
Did we lose our radio
Hello?
man, Mark?
Okay. Oh, I think we might have. As long as you wanna...
He's back.
Bears? Hello?
Yeah. He said that, I remember them doing that song live on WLS. They performed it live, and Les says, I was sitting in the studio with them. when they did that.
Okay.
And I asked him, hey, did you have something to do with that, them performing it? He goes, no, I was just there. And I said, Les, there was nothing else like that ever on the radio at that time. And he just chuckled and said, oh, yes, there was.
Oh, my
So
God.
he was just one of a kind. He brought so many people together, guys. I always look forward to some of the other people who called in, like Joe from the Northwest Side. I always envision him as John Candy, as the Cubs announcer in that movie Rookie of the Year. I picture Joe from the Northwest Side looking like him and sounding like him. His friend from West Lafayette, Indiana, who always say, "Hey, Grubber, old buddy," and Keith from Rock. And none of us have ever met each other, and yet I feel like we all knew each other. I'd love to just sit down and have a beer with all those guys.
Amen, man. Thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it.
I was there.
Lesker, man, he found himself just about everywhere. Did you ever find out why he was being so secretive, Mitch, about that Super Bowl that I was antagonizing him about and trying to find out if he was going? What was that all about?
Yeah, well, let the truth be told. It was from me because he went to a Super Bowl and the connection didn't work, and he ended up doing his show like on a regular phone line, and he sounded like this. And I said, Les, never again, because he went to the Super Bowl on his own dime, and he was reporting for the AP.
Right.
And obviously the Bears weren't there that year, and it really, I felt, did not much for the score. So we talked, and I said, Les, no more. Well, I can guarantee it will work. I said, Les, not doing it again. And then you, Mr. Grote, always brought up, Les, you going to the Super Bowl? We will not talk about that. And because I said, Les, take the day off then. Go on your own. You're doing it on your own dime anyway. So that is, kind of anticlimactic, but that is the Les Grobstein, don't talk about the Super Bowl when Mark Grote brings it up story. The truth is that.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Like I said, this process has been one of hilarity, sadness, informing. Nothing has changed about the overall picture of Les Grobstein, Mitch, but just to hear the stories and to be amongst his biggest fans on the radio has been therapy for me. Being on yesterday and then it was a pleasure and an honor to preside over Score Overnight for the first few hours, and then with you, Mitch Rosen, for the last couple of hours. And I have no idea what to say right now other than, we have lost Les, but he lived the life that he wanted.
Right. Mark, a couple things. Thank you for being you. Thank you for hosting tonight. Thank you for hosting yesterday. Thank you for being such a good friend to Les. You and Les have become very close friends, so thank you for that. Thank you to our Score audience. Like I said earlier, you became friends with Les. Overnight radio is a friendship, and you've bonded throughout the years with Les. So I want to say I'm sorry for your loss to our Score audience, because you've made a friend, and it's a friendship. I give you my word. Please be patient. And we will have a new friend for you to get to know over the years, and we will work on this. This was a sudden loss to all of us. Les and I talked every day. We talked Sunday at 11 a.m. He had passed away at 5:30 p.m. So it was sudden to everybody. Les was an iconic person. He always will be. We will miss him forever. And we thank you more than ever for listening to The Score and being part of our family. We encourage you to stay with us. We appreciate the loyalty. We are live and local. We are a Chicago radio station. We look forward to Mully & Haw next, but Mark, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Mitch, and thanks for allowing me to come on, because like I said, I would have had it no other way. I am probably going to take a nap here very shortly, but I have enjoyed presiding over Score Overnight for the last 5 hours. So for Sean Sears, for Mitch Rosen, the program director of The Score, I'm Mark Grote. Mully & Haw, moments away on Chicago Sports Radio 670, The Score.
Check technical foul on Les Grobstein. His second, and he's gone.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you